Clock, October 5th, 2020, and we're at one of our special commissioners court meetings. Reminder, everyone turn off your cell phones, and if there's any public input, we'll take it at this time. Due to the judge not being here this morning, we don't have his phone for call-in public comment, but certainly if anyone is here would like to speak, it's available. And we also have Commissioner Mosier on the phone this morning. So no public comment.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's go to Commissioner's comments. Commissioner 1?
No, I don't have a lot to report.
Commissioner 2? Any comments?
Pass. I'll pass right now. Thank you.
Commissioner 4?
Well, the wild game dinner for the 4-H was the other day. I think they sold like 150 drive-through meals, and so that's good. The big thing to me is these fall mornings feel awfully good. I think it makes everybody feel good and puts a smile on their face. So that's it.
I have a couple of comments. One, welcome back, Sheriff. He's back in full force, it looks like. Looks good. Glad to have you back. Second comment is just, when someone from this community's excelled and done something really remarkable, I'd like to try to always point it out. There's one that I wasn't aware of until last Wednesday. Texas Supreme Court Justice Brett Busby is a graduate of, I know he went to Tybee, I believe he's a graduate of Tybee. And that's a pretty impressive thing to become for a Tybee graduate, become Supreme Court Justice in the state of Texas, and he's on the ballot coming up, so keep that in your thoughts. And I think that's about it. That's all the comments I had this morning. So we'll move on into the agenda. Item 1.1, consider, discuss, take appropriate action on request from Hill Country Crisis Council to use courthouse lawn for the month of October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Ms. Summerlin?
Yeah, you're probably all familiar with what we do, and we run the emergency shelter for women and children that have experienced domestic violence and needed a safe place to go. We have the Kids Advocacy Place where we work with child abuse victims, and we have offices in 4 counties now. But yes, every year that I can remember, at least 10 years, we've decorated the courthouse for the month of October. We put some bows on the trees. We usually hang our banner on the gazebo, and we don't use nails or anything. We have our system down with zip ties, and then we put a few signs, kind of like the political signs, in the ground around a few places. And this year we may, with your permission, we're not sure how we're going to do it, but we may hang a few t-shirts on the gazebo, but on kind of like a clothesline wire that again wouldn't cause any damage, but it would be like a black t-shirt that would say "I did not survive," and then a gray t-shirt that would say something like "I'm trapped and hurting," and then a purple t-shirt that would say "I'm free," and then the purple lights, which we were so excited you guys did last year for us. And someone told me it's like an app on their phone now that they can just, Jody told me that they can just change the colors. So that's what we have in mind. And it will probably be done, if you give permission, by the end of this week.
I move for approval. Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Ballou, second Commissioner Harris, to approve the request for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Thanks for coming in.
Jody, thank you.
Item 1.2, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the lease agreement between Xerox Corporation and Kerr County for a copier, scanner, printer at the tax office annex. Commissioner Reed, Tax Assessor Reeves.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Kerr County Tax Office Annex currently has a Xerox copier, scanner, and printer under lease. The lease actually expired on September 1 of this year. The local Xerox representative has submitted a proposal for the new lease, and the rate quoted under the lease is $60.30 per month for a 5-year term. The lease that's under proposal is currently approximately $1 per month lower than the previous lease and will include 2,500 black and white pages per month. I utilized an online service to try to get bids from other companies, and only one responded. This company quoted a lease rate of $109.75 per month with 2,000 pages per month. Xerox is an approved vendor with the Texas Department of Information Resources, or DIR. They provide government-approved contracts which have been pre-approved by the competitive bidding process. Additionally, Xerox the representative is located in Kerrville and has been in business in Kerr County for an extended period of time. The county attorney has reviewed and approved the lease agreement, and I respectfully request the court to approve the lease agreement and authorize the county judge to sign.
I move for approval.
Looks like a no-brainer. I'll move for approval.
Okay, have a second.
Okay.
Commissioner Mosier made the motion to approve the request. Commissioner Harris made the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
All
Good
right.
job, Bob.
Item 1.3, consider, discuss, take appropriate action to declare various items as surplus for the 198th District Attorney's Office, Extension Office, and Environmental Health. Mr. Robles.
Are we calling items 1.3 and 1.4?
And 1.4 as well as consider, discuss, take appropriate action to declare various items as surplus for the 216th District Attorney's Office as well.
Yes, the 216th has 7 chairs that they're looking to surplus, and then the 198th has various IT equipment, scanners, computers, laptops. The full detail is in your backup. And the extension office is requesting to surplus a TV.
Okay. I move for approval. Second.
A motion from Commissioner Harris, second from Commissioner Blue to approve the items requested for surplus out of the 198th District Attorney's Office, Extension Office, Environmental Health, and the 216th District Attorney's Office as listed in the agenda item backup. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand.
Hey.
Hey, thank you, Commissioner Moser. Item 1.5, consider, discuss, take appropriate action to approve the engagement letter by Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates, PC, as presented for the audit and of the financial statements for the period ended September 30th, 2020, and authorize the county judge to sign same.
Yes, this is our external audit firm, Armstrong and Vaughn. We'll be auditing the Kerr County financial statements. And this is the engagement letter that will need to get signed and back to Debbie.
Move for approval.
Have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Blue, second Commissioner Harris to approve the engagement letter with Armstrong, Vaughn.
Couple of
and
questions.
Okay.
Couple of questions, Jonathan. Where is the audit firm located?
Universal City.
Universal City.
And where?
Universal City, north of San Antonio.
Okay, but they've got so a little over $2,500 for travel back and forth from San Antonio. It seems a little bit high.
They stay in a hotel up here for a couple of days. Several of their
I
members.
can't understand what's being said. So.
James said they stay in a hotel up here for several days when they're doing the audit to keep from driving back and forth.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. How does that cost compared to last year's?
I believe they were about 48,000 last year, 47, 48,000.
They were about 47 or 48,000 last year.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
They've done a good job and easy to work with.
Yes.
Okay. All right. No further discussion. And the motion was from Commissioner Blue, second from Commissioner Harris. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Item 1.6, consider, discuss, take appropriate action to accept the Center for Tech and Civil Life grant in the amount of $34,771.20. Callie?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So last week we applied for the Center for Tech and Civil Life grant. It basically helps ensure safe elections and expands voter education. And we're gonna partially use it for the cost of reprinting ballots for this upcoming election. And we were approved for $34,771.
For some reason, I can't hear at all.
Yeah. Callie's talking kind of soft.
Oh, sorry. So we were approved for $34,771.50. So for this grant agreement, the judge would need to sign it, and as I said, we would use it for reprinting ballots and possibly other election expenses.
All right, just to go over briefly for Commissioner Mosier, it's a grant that we applied for to help cover the cost of reprinting the election ballots and some other unexpected election expenses. And this grant will help pay for that additional cost.
I did a little research into this group, and I didn't like what I saw about them. I don't know what kind of strings there are attached to this, so if there are any, please tell us.
It doesn't seem like there are any strings attached. There's no match for this grant. There was no fees paid up front for this grant. And this grant, this organization is backed by the Texas Association of Counties, so that was a positive sign. From what I see, this looks like a good grant, and the categories are pretty loosely defined. So
At the right time, I've got a comment, Jonathan.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to put it on the record. I do not like what I saw about them. They don't seem to be fair and impartial, and I don't like hitting the tar baby, so to speak. I prefer to stay away from this kind of stuff. If we don't need the money, then I don't think we should do it.
Commissioner Mosier, your comment?
Yeah, I was wondering what the obligations are by the county, or is there any downside for the county on this?
Did you hear Commissioner Ballou's comments?
Not very clearly, no.
I said I did some research into this group. I don't like what I see. I don't think they're fair and impartial based on the research I've done. And this just hopped up out of nowhere, and if we don't actually need it, I'm wanting to pass on this myself. I don't want to be holding to anybody or have any strings attached or any associations with something that doesn't look like it's fair and impartial.
Well, thank you for that, Harley. But still, I have the question: is there an obligation or a downside to the county for this grant?
I don't believe there is, and I think that this could be a good thing because this is for any elections expenses, whereas the HAVA grant that we had can only be related to COVID election expenses, so this can cover any other election expenses that we could possibly need, like for our poll workers and stuff like that.
I guess the question I have is, where's the money coming? I know it's coming from an entity called the Center for Tech and Civil Life out of Michigan, Chicago. Where are they getting their money?
So they received money for kind of like we did from the CARES Act. They received money. This organization received $250 million, I think, from the CARES Act.
So we could apply for the same reimbursement from the CARES Act?
No, because it's not. They don't cover voting expenses for.
There's got to be what do they want? That's my question. You have somebody that they were able to acquire $250 million based on what? We know nothing about them other than what I've read, and that threw up a red flag for me, and I don't want somebody in Michigan buying their way into Kerr County or Minnesota or wherever they are. I don't know where they're at. I don't remember.
It says Chicago on there.
Chicago. Okay, so Illinois.
I said Michigan, sorry.
We have already applied for the grant. This is the one that y'all approved us applying for last week. And it's the amount of money that we've received is based on the number of voters that we have. I have seen this on the county auditor's listserv. We have not seen anything negative coming down for it. Again, the fact that TAC, Texas Association of Counties, and discussed it somewhat in one of the articles I saw also, kind of helped relieve some of those questions. I understand what you're asking, but so far they haven't asked for anything
So far.
outside of the ordinary that you wouldn't normally be asked for.
They haven't asked for our banking information, they haven't asked for anything of that nature, anything unreasonable.
Well, I'm suspicious by nature when somebody shows up with a bag of money or asks me if I want to buy a watch or something, you know. I tend to say no. And I don't know anything about this, whether TAC likes them or not, makes no difference whatsoever to me.
How about
Because they never saw a grant they didn't like.
How about we pass and look at it in a week after we have a little more time to look into the organization and where the funds are coming from? Actually, I know you say CARES Act, but how did they get the CARES Act and we can't get the CARES Act? I guess would be my question.
It's not that they got it. They would have went through some other request cycle. We do have money from the CARES Act. That's our $1.5 million.
Right.
And so the CARES Act went to many different organizations, and there's, economic development grants that were given. So it's probably on a different scale than any we saw here at the county.
You're comfortable with this?
I am.
And then why do we need it? Just because somebody's offering doesn't mean we need it.
That's
Good at it.
true. What we were looking to try to take care of on this is that the ballot expense. So when the ballots have to be reprinted because of the Green Party was
Right.
added to the ballot, and so we had already printed half of our ballots, I believe it was at that time. I keep looking at the tax assessor collector. We'd already printed about half of ours at that time. And so we actually have a cost involved with that reprinting now.
How much is it?
It's somewhere around $10,000.
Yeah, that's what Bob said last week. What did
Yeah.
Bob? 10,000. About.
That's my estimate.
And that is not an eligible expense for the HAVA grant, so that's what we were looking to use this for.
Right. Well, I have deep reservations about it.
Well, I move for approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Harris. I don't hear a second, so
Okay.
fails for lack of a second. You can put it back on the next agenda if you want. Okay. Consider, discuss, take appropriate action regarding political signs on county property. This would be, go from one to another on this one.
This was brought up last week. In fact, Bob Reeves and I and Jonathan talked about it. It come up about signage, especially with election next week from tomorrow. Our early voting starts, and out at the event center. And there's concerns about putting signage up on the fences, as well as make sure that nobody does anything that damages our parking area, our pavement, and what have you. So we looked at some other counties, and I think actually Commissioner Letts found something that was from a couple counties, or at least one that was very similar to our situation. And so we kind of looked at it and tweaked it a little bit, and the county attorney's been involved with this, and so each of y'all have gotten this document as far as what the other county had and with our Kerr County twist on it. So what do you have anything to say about it, Mr. Blue?
I don't, if you're gonna attach a sign, the law is that if you're gonna attach a sign to somebody's fence, you get permission from them. The county could give any candidate, all candidates, permission to attach temporarily. When we've had elections at different places around town, when we used to do it at the Cala, you had to clear out all the signs every night, put them back the next day, so nothing gets damaged and everybody's in charge of their own signs. And as far as like trying to hold a pop-up tent down in the parking lot and nail something in the parking lot, that's obviously destruction of our property, our county property. But I don't have any other input. I don't see how it's harming anything to have a sign on the fence if they're permitted to do it during a certain short amount of time, during voting hours only, and then take them back down.
The concern that I had is that this is really at the early voting at the Ag Barn. There's a big parking lot there, and we don't want, from a safety standpoint, I don't want stuff scattered all over that parking lot within, I think it's 100 feet you have to be from a area. So, I mean, it could be, to me, it's a safety hazard to allow the candidates just to put stuff arbitrarily around that parking lot. So I think it's much better to confine it to a certain area. I'd rather not have it on the fence. Yes, we do allow occasionally a sign on the fence for events, but if one goes there, that whole fence is going to get covered with signs. We get a strong north wind, that fence is coming over.
Right.
So
you got that and the visibility, and we have so many people running. We have the city races, local races, and this is good grief. If we don't limit in some capacity, it's going to be a problem. And again, the safety aspect, they're going to want to put signs everywhere, and visibility driving through the parking area could be a problem, and what have you.
People standing around, because it's not like the Cali Center where you have medians and clear parking. It's pretty much just an open area of pavement.
Right.
So to me, you designate an area, and what makes sense is kind of between the two gates, either 25 or 50 feet from the fence into the property. Maintenance can,
They're going to take up the first two rows of parking, or up to about up to the first row. Is that what?
Yeah, probably something like that. I haven't gone out and measured, but there's a big enough area that they can be seen. But it's in an area that is not going to cause I don't think, a safety hazard or a property damage hazard.
Well, is that going to violate any state rules about campaigning?
Now, Jason's looked at this, so I'm interested to hear from Jason.
My ears are starting to perk up a little bit there at the end. So the guideline is basically it's got to be reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. And when you start talking about a specific strip of land, it's got to be reasonable. It's got to be big enough, and it's the election cycle we're in. We want to make sure tensions aren't going to get hot and somebody does something dumb. So that's more of a practical decision, though, based on the location about what that range would look like.
That area, I'm guessing, is probably 200 feet by 50 feet, that's a pretty big area.
Sure.
But there's an entrance and there's an exit.
What are you talking about?
From inside, from the two gates, 27, in
Okay.
between the two gates, and maybe go 25 or 50 feet into
Wherever
the property.
that 100 foot from the building comes.
Yeah.
Bob, you know about where it is. The 100 foot mark would be from the building.
Based on, excuse me, Jason, based on the runoff election and holding early voting in July, where we have to mark the 100 foot, which that's the extent of my authority, is what happens within the 100 foot. It's about the middle of the parking lot going out from the event center is about 100 feet, about the middle, where
You're right.
the lower indention for drainage is. It's roughly where 100 feet is.
Ballpark. Okay. I don't think you can tell somebody to stay I don't think you can tell anybody to stay, I'm sorry, Bob, further back than what the limit is. The limit is the limit.
The
That
limit
100 feet is where they're allowed to be.
Outside the 100 feet, that's correct, from any exterior entrance to the building, which with curbside voting in the new show barn, there's going to be 100 foot that way as well from the west doors of what we refer to as the swine barn. So we've got to abide by that as well. as early voting clerk, my authority ends at the 100-foot marker. And then it falls into the county law enforcement's part of it. My only reason that I brought this up was there was confusion with the runoff of where they could put them as far on the fence, off the fence. I visited with Commissioner Letts, and we had agreed more from a practical and safety standpoint that applying them to the fence could create problems.
You have to have permission for that from whoever whether it's the county or private landowner, to hook onto somebody's fence. That part I understand. The restriction from the building is the difficult part.
John,
Kerr County,
I have a comment when I get a chance.
Okay.
Kerr County only has one polling place that is under our ownership, and then depends on how you look at the agreement with Union Church. But the only true polling place that Kerr County owns will be the event center that we're using for early voting.
Yeah. But see, part of my concern is that it goes in, we have other events there while this is going on. We've got people that are in and out of the extension office. We have people that work in the facility. We just can't have people at random in that parking lot.
But I don't think that legally, that's what Jason is talking about, you can tell them they have a certain area to campaign in.
I should maybe step back a little bit. And so that 100 feet, like Assessor Reeves talked about, that is no fooling. You can't have any kind of signage in there or whatever.
Right.
But the election code does give the entity who owns or controls that property the authority to control the time, manner, and place of their signage. Like the city, for example, like you were saying, why you have to take it down each night, that's permissible. And so when we're talking about something and we're just talking about county-owned or controlled buildings. Private businesses, they can do whatever they want based on, subject to municipal codes. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about county, basically we're talking about the youth center today. But so we have the authority to regulate that, and including political signs. And it's a political decision as to where you want to allow the signage, if you want to allow it on the fence, if you don't want to allow it on the fence, as long as it's within just time, place, and manner, and we're not getting into content.
Hey, Commissioner Moser, you had a comment?
Yeah, I do. I've got a comment. My reaction, and I read the proposed policies. I think we're being overly restrictive. When I read through that thing, it looks like it's looking for reasons to restrict people. It's the public's property that we're putting it on. I think it's as important as the election is extremely important. I agree with safety being a concern. I don't agree with all the T-posts and all the other kind of stuff that's there. I think that's a stretch. What I think I'd like to see, if it's, and I had a hard time hearing some of the discussion, but if it's a safety concern and you need to restrict the areas to do it, then identify that only the safety issues. I wouldn't go along, or I don't believe we.
Are you there?
I think we lost you.
How much security is on site?
I don't
There you
go
go.
along with somebody. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we
can hear you
We
now.
lost you for a while, for about 30 seconds there.
Okay, I just think we're being overly restrictive. Safety things, I think if we define an area where you can't put signs for safety reasons, that's fine, but I think the policy as written is way overly restrictive, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I think safety is important. Are we going to have sheriff's deputies there, and how many? What will they do? Can we direct traffic?
Main answer is no. Okay. Actually, and Bob and I talked about some of this, and he got an opinion as far as law enforcement for an election. Bob's it. Okay. He has full.
Well, I'm talking about, like, say, to direct traffic.
No,
Or
not
do we
direct.
need personnel.
When you
that-
start putting uniformed officers carrying guns at an election poll, they consider that could be, intimidating. So we try and stay away from it. If Bob needs law enforcement to be there, then we're going to be there. If their election people call us, we'll be there instantly. But otherwise, we may drive through. I like to make it a habit of just going over and visiting with them at the polling place just to see how things are going. I may not stay 5 minutes there. Or I'm not in uniform either, but we'll do that. And if they run short on ballots at one, we'll run ballots to them. So you'll see officers coming and going, but we're never going to be stationed at it.
So what I was asking for is for traffic, and we could have people from Ag Barn employees or volunteers directing traffic.
Well,
So
last
we cut down on that.
they had a very good system, I thought, where you drive through in the cones and the way they had
Yeah.
it marked. It didn't require law enforcement to be any part of that traffic. I think it worked real well, the way Bob and them all set that up. And I wouldn't expect anything different this time, other than just to be maybe a lot busier.
A lot busier.
It'll be a lot bigger.
But it's a lot busier, but you've also got an extended early voting time
Exactly.
this time too, that's gonna spread it out more. So it's the same way, and I think that's what.
I wouldn't think traffic would be a problem, during early voting, because it is spread out so much.
Well, if that's not the problem, then visibility is the problem.
It can be.
So if we don't give anybody permission to put signs on the fence, but we have cones and we have people, volunteers directing you which way to go if you're gonna vote in your car or go inside, then you're still gonna have to, wind your way through.
My only concern and question to the court is, while I have no authority to pass that 100-foot marker, I will be the one getting the questions, and I would like some direction if you want it anyway, as many signs as you can put on the fence, that's fine. Because as I said, I'll be the one getting the questions. I mean, Commissioner Harris already called me where this comment started, or this discussion started about signs in the early polling place in Ingram, which is on school property, which we don't have any control, we being the county. But I certainly would like just direction, so when we are, myself, Nadine, or any of the election workers are asked about where they can put signs, at least we can give them a uniform decision from the court.
How about, would it work if Bob, maybe Commissioner Harris, and Jake Williamson designated several areas out there that are pretty large, and put them in areas where people can put signs, and just leave it at that?
I'm for that.
I'm for that, but the one thing this deal addresses is there'll be no driving a T-post into the pavement, that kind of stuff that would harm, our facility and what have you.
I think that goes, if anyone
I
does,
think people have got common sense, they're not gonna do that.
I hope, but
Yeah, well,
but I think if someone damages the county property, we have other ways to make them compensate us or fix it. I think I'm more concerned about having locations where they can do it that doesn't interfere with other county offices, being the extension office, and people going in and out of that office all day long. People that may, a lot of kids and parents go back to the 4-H barn. It's that kind of stuff that I'm more concerned about. So if we could designate, I don't know if Commissioner Reeves, Cecil Reeves, wants to be involved with that, but I think that we can maybe, as maintenance, and Commissioner Harris, in consultation with the county attorney's office, designate some places on 3 sides of the building.
Well, I think the sign issue will kind of take care of itself if you designate where the parking is going to be, because the candidates are going to follow the voters.
Okay.
So even if you had them park out in the rodeo grounds, that's where the signs are going to go before somebody gets in. It does no good to have a sign at the exit. They've already voted. So wherever people are gonna come in and park, if there's a designated parking area, that's where those signs are gonna go to. So you figure that out and you've got the problem solved.
We try to encourage the voters to park from that 100-foot marker to the building, just for the ease of getting in and out and all of that. I agree with you, Commissioner, that I feel it's not my place to designate political signs outside of that 100-foot marker and leave it up to event staff and this court.
Jonathan, I agree with your approach.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we have Jake Williamson, Commissioner Harris, and Shane Evans in consultation with the county's attorney office develop a plan to where candidates can locate their signs that will not be a safety issue.
So just for clarification, are we having a county policy on election signs, or is this just specific to the event center?
This is specific to this election and this event.
Only.
Understood.
And that they'll, the best way to do it would be to get a plaque to draw out on it. And,
Sure. I'll give it
I
a check.
second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion by myself and second by Commissioner Moser to have Commissioner Harris, Jake Williamson, and Shane Evans in consultation with the county's attorney office come up with a plan as to where candidates may place signs at the Hickland Youth Event Center for this election only.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of free speech zones, and this comes dangerously close to a free speech zone. For my money, the free speech zone is from Canada to Mexico and from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic. That's the free speech zone. Now, I know we cannot we have rules about the 100 feet from the entrance. Right. Everybody agrees with that, so I just don't like the idea that we push everybody into a little thing where they're, hustling around each other with their sign and yelling and everything.
Well, I would encourage to make them as big as possible. I mean, I think you can put a big one in the front and if there's a drive-through around one side. I think your point, there's no reason to put them on the exits to give them a spot there. But anyway.
They'll have more room than they'll need or
Good.
want to utilize probably.
All right, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0.
One thing, and maybe I should have spoke up a little bit quicker. Are they able to leave them overnight?
Yes. Well, no, let me back off on that.
Should we
do we have other events during early?
Oh yeah.
So
I think they should probably remove them at night. That'd be my feeling that was not
we
included
need
in the
to
motion.
redo this then.
And we can do a second motion on that agenda.
well, because that's going to be important. That's going to be one of the first questions because that's how they did it at Caloo.
Right.
Now, I know in speaking to Dr. Templeton at Ingram, he said it didn't matter there. It's whatever we said, but they don't have events like we do that would.
And again, that's another property. That's not
it's
county
not
property.
ours. So.
Well, we can be silent on it and see how it goes. And if they start being blown all over the parking lot, we can change it Monday.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, either way, I mean, I'm open to it. If anyone wants to make a motion on taking them up.
Can that be part of the plan that Jake and Commissioner Harris and Shane, the county attorney's office, come up with?
I don't believe that. It's stretching it.
That doesn't handle it.
It would come into play in offloading or bringing in stuff for a next day's event.
Well, and it might interfere with parking for an event
right.
in the evenings. So
that's true.
And some of the candidates on state and national events aren't around. They don't know. Our local people will probably take care of their own, but sometimes those are the ones that end up being left. And
yeah, true.
So since it is an event center with other events that will be held out there during early voting, as much as I hate it, especially when I was a candidate, to pick them up each evening and then put them back the next morning. I'm gonna move that we, make a policy where they are, picked up at night and then brought back the next morning.
That would just be for this. That's not really a policy, just for this.
Yeah, just for this early voting.
Second. So we have a motion and a second that the signs must be removed at night.
You have a time frame on that?
When the polls close.
Yeah.
I'll just put a time on it.
When the polls close, and the time being when the polls close,
Whatever
and
time
open and close. Or close in the evening, they can put them in
And
early.
brought back,
You gotta get them an hour before and after.
okay, that'll be fine.
Hour before and after polls opening and closing.
So do we need to amend the last?
I think this is a new motion.
New one.
It's easier. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0, passes. All right, item 1.8, consider, discuss, take appropriate action to ratify and confirm the Kerr County Workers' Compensation Renewal Questionnaire for Texas Association of Counties. This is a annual renewal. It was held up a little bit this year because we were trying to figure out what we do with jurors and election workers, right? Is election workers too? We went back and forth. We talked about this last year. Y'all probably don't recall it, but I barely do. Anyway, it was $67.
$67 for.
See, it would cost $67 to add them. I made the decision, or we made the decision, talking with Jennifer, myself, and Tanya, that for $67, it's probably worth having workers' comp for those people in case they do happen to fall. That would be the risk while they're serving. So that's the only change from last year's renewal.
The other change is removing election workers. That requires a vote. And I just visited with Bob, and all of our election workers are employees, and this covers volunteer election workers, non-employees, and we don't have any of those. So.
Right.
Well, they're not full-time employees of the county, but they are being paid by the county for the work. Well, what I'm saying, they're election workers who are being paid by Kerr County.
Right,
It's not just my staff, it's.
Right.
Right, they're employees and they're covered. This is
And
just
they're covered as well.
This is just for volunteers.
The question comes in is if they're employees or not, and it's gray, but talking with TAC, we can cover them, and for $67, it seemed like a pretty good.
They're temporary employees, aren't they?
Right, because we're paying them.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's so that the questionnaire has been submitted. These are budgeted funds. Any other comments? Did I miss anything, Jennifer?
Hey, Jonathan, I've got a question.
Okay.
Some of the amounts in there, I don't know if it's significant or not, but like at the airport, it shows 85,000. What does that mean? I mean, that's not that doesn't cover the salaries of the people at the airport.
What page are you on, Tom?
Let me see if I can find it. I can't see what. Stand by just a second.
Second and third page.
I can't see the page, but it's line item.
Yeah.
This is just an example. 07423.
It does look low for the airport salary. It is
That's
low.
just.
And same thing for election personnel. It's 56,000. You know, I don't have any issue with the whole thing, but it's just those amounts in there that it jumped out at me.
The airport is just for the airport manager.
Okay,
What it looked like.
The airport is only the airport manager.
And the other person
Oh.
is clerical, and she's in the clerical.
The other
section.
people out there are included under other line items, how it's broken out.
Oh, I see. So Jason would be covered under something else.
Yes.
And the same thing for election personnel, which is 56,000.
Yes.
Yes. They're covered under items like clerical and some of the other, and maintenance.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Is the airport manager not covered in some kind of interlocal agreement?
Yes, it is, but the interlocal agreement, Kerr County picks up, well, the airport board is paid for out of the airport fund, which the city and the county jointly held.
Right, so,
But we pay for the insurance, it all gets billed back into that account.
but would we pay the full amount?
We pay the full amount and then reimburse ourselves internally because we're responsible under the interlocal to carry their employees under our system, and then we get reimbursed partially back through, or it's paid out of the airport account. Correct, Tanya? I'm looking at Tanya on this. Or James.
Yes, it's paid out of the airport funds. And we, as an employee, they are under our system, so we do pay for it.
100% out of Kerr County?
I
thought these were all shared expenses.
They are. We get,
It is an expense.
but we have to, they can't be under, the airport doesn't have a benefits package. So they're all under Kerr County's benefit package 100%. Then the airport fund, which the city contributes to, reimburses our general fund.
Okay. Well, I've not read the interlocal
Right.
agreement, so.
Yeah.
And if I had, I wouldn't have looked at little details like that, so.
Well, the city pays for certain types of insurance. This is the other types of insurance that we pay for. So we kind of split it 50-50 between them.
I've heard that before.
Sheriff, yeah.
Real quick, we hadn't used it in a number of years, and that's why I've started to now. There was always 4 approved reserve deputy positions that were covered under the workers' comp too. And those aren't paid, but they are reserve positions that the court had approved years ago. And I filled 2 of those, but normally we don't. And I just want to make sure that they're still in there.
We do cover 20 law enforcement volunteers. Those are in the quote.
Yes.
20, yes.
So that would be like an emergency situation.
Well, we have
That's
some
for-
volunteers. We probably need to look at that then, because I don't know which ones need to be covered. One, you have the hurricanes now, which are the people that can go out and help us do rescues and things like that. That is an organization we have. And so I think that's the main point that she's talking about. But now, we have a lot of other volunteers, such as clergy type people, or people that come in and do GD or different courses in the jail, you know, church. I don't know, and they're volunteers. Now, I don't know if they need to be covered or how that would work under there.
We
And
have-
then you have actual law enforcement, which is the full reserve officers that I have.
There's also all other volunteers, there's emergency medical personnel volunteers, there's a lot of categories of volunteers.
Okay. I just want to make sure that those are covered. That's all.
And they're.
Yeah, Jonathan, probably the bottom line on that, when I looked at the total number of people covered here, it's 1,783. Wow, but it sounds like that covers everybody.
It covers a lot, and we try to, I mean,
Most of those are jurors.
Right.
The district
it's,
clerk guesstimate how many jurors we have in a year.
jurors are included and
1,400 of those.
a lot of volunteers. It's a lot of different groups, and we try to, when we go through it and submit the questionnaire, which is what this is approving, we try to cover everything. And I'm sure there's an adjustment made based on all the workers' comp that I've had in my own businesses, that they adjust at the end of the year based on the actual number of
Right,
employees you
exactly. They'll
have.
do
This is kind of going in number. If you have more than this, they'll send you another bill. If you have less, you get a rebate.
Right.
So this is the question.
I move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mosier, the second Commissioner Baloo, to approve or to ratify and confirm the Kerr County Workers' Compensation Renewal Questionnaire with TAC. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 1.9, County Clerk has asked that we pass. Item 1.10, consider, discuss, take appropriate action to approve job description for the Chief Public Defender of the Hill Country Regional Public Defender's Office. I believe everyone was handed out the most recent draft of this. The process this has to be approved by TIDC, what's it called? Yeah, TIDC. The local committee, which I'm part of, along with the judge and the county attorney and others, I've gone back and forth with this, and this is this form, I think addresses all the concerns we had locally and has been agreed to by TIDC as well for the job description. The urgency on this is critical to get this up and posted so we can start receiving applications for this position. The other 4 counties are also looking at the job description, and most of them are, I shouldn't say most, some of them are courts are appointing the county judge to finalize it. But since we're a little bit more involved, it's coming to our court as a whole. So if there's any questions, I think it looks fine, but I think that any motion to approve it probably should allow the county judge to make any minor adjustments to it if needed from the other counties.
Ultimately, now, whatever we decide on, they're gonna have to hammer out something between them anyway.
Yeah, this is the public defender. The other thing, the interlocal agreement between the 5 counties is being done and will probably be before the court next Monday. That's probably even more important because it will set up the oversight committee and who that membership of that oversight committee is. Last meeting, it will be set up that the oversight committee will have 2 representatives from each county except Kerr County will have 3 representatives, so it'll be 11-member oversight committee. The intent is that for the commissioner's court to appoint 1 member that represents the court, either the county judge or a commissioner, or in Kendall County's case, it will be their general counsel to be on that. And then the other slot, well, for Kerr County, the intent is for the county judge and then a commissioner to serve on it. And then the other slot is kind of an at-large where they're hoping to bring in, kind of work amongst themselves to bring in like maybe some with some HR experience, some with audit experience, some other different specific experiences. And the legislation also provides some guidance as to people that they recommend. But that's not on this agenda,
Right.
and that's next week's.
Okay. Y'all have had several group meetings hammering this out for a while, haven't you?
Yes, and Heather's been very involved, as is Judge Williams, myself,
Right.
Christine McIntyre. Who else is on that committee? Stephen Harpole and Jennifer Dawes. They've all been on that committee. And I will tell you that this is nothing like the initial draft that came from TIDC.
I bet. And there's a phrase in here that gives me, that I have total confidence now to vote for this, because there's this one thing that says performs other duties as assigned. So I'm good with whatever we do with this document.
Yep, that's the catch-all phrase.
That's it.
I will say there's a couple of interesting things just to bring up. If you go on the 3rd page under special requirements and preferences, this is kind of an agreed settlement between TIDC and Kerr County. Is that the intent, really the local counties and their representatives wanted the person to be basically a state of Texas attorney. TIDC, we're not sure why, they really wanted it to be opened up to people outside the state. So it now says that there's a preference to be state bar, or will be in state bar soon. And then that comes into the preferences there. Then also there's a preference that they live, we couldn't require them, we're told, to live in the 5 counties, but we can put a preference in.
Sure.
So I suspect that it's going to be very hard for someone doesn't agree to live in one of the 5 counties or be licensed by the Supreme Court of Texas, probably not going to get this job. But that's why that language is in there. But I think it's pretty good. We spent a lot of time on it, and I'd recommend this be approved, and with I make a motion to approve it and allowing the county judge to make any minor changes that may be necessary.
Great. Second.
Okay.
Motion from myself and second from Commissioner Harris to to approve the job description and authorize the county judge to make any minor changes as may be needed. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, 4-0. On to the approval of general, pay the bills.
Just to kind of, before I get started, the Kerr County fiscal year end was the end of September. And so we will start having the two different designations on whether it was last year or the current year that we're in right now. So for last year, Kerr County invoices $61,344.18. For this year, $182,062.88. The airport for last year, $1,679.70. For this year, $100. Adult probation for this year, $1,477.54. For the Clean Water Act, it's for last year was $1,500. For the 198th DA forfeiture fund for last year, $449.32. And for this current year, $1,456.
All right.
I move for approval. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Blue to approve the disbursements and bills as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Budget amendments?
There are not any.
None. Late bills?
There are not any.
Auditor report?
Yes, we had turned into you two internal audit reports that were completed. One was for the county clerk's office and one was for the Justice of the Peace, Precinct 2. We're just asking that you accept these.
I move for approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Harris and a second Commissioner Blue to accept the auditor reports for the county clerk and JP2. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Monthly reports?
None.
On court orders, we have the court orders from our September 28th regular sessions, orders number 38338 through 38361. They all look to be in order. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Baloo. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Information agenda, status reports from department heads. Any? None. Status report from elected officials.
Today
Sure.
is the last day to register to vote.
Last day to register to vote.
No.
Sheriff, nothing? He's shaking his head. Status report from liaison commissioners.
I've got something, Jonathan.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. Marty Mistrada is back from her reserve duty, so that's good. The other thing is on Friday, there's a strategic planning meeting with the airport, and I think all the commissioners and members of the city council know about that.
Correct. Okay.
As far as maintenance goes, they put out the slab for that generator, and it's kind of going to infringe on our handicap parking for vans, so we may have to tweak some arrangements out there. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We're going to look at it. So,
Okay.
to be determined.
Anything else? I don't have any. And we don't have any executive session, correct, Jason?
I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. With that being said, I think that takes care of it. We're adjourned.